We're here once again. Welcome back to Calgary Barbell HQ. It's a beautiful day. The sun is shining, and we're wrapping up another week of training, heading towards the hopeful IPF Worlds. But first, we've got Westerns, which is Nationals, which is how we qualify for Worlds. So this was the first week of training sort of back. Now, the last block was what I would consider kind of a bridge between the sort of rehab and movement focused work that I had been doing to try to regain range of motion and, pain-free movement, the ability to kind of push through my knee. And we achieved that. And then last block was kind of building back that tolerance to load, which again, I think we achieved really well. So starting with this week, I was confident enough to start with weights on the bar that would be not more than 10 to 15% off of what I would normally at the sort of peak of height be training with, which felt really, really, really good. So started off, we're doing, this is what Mike calls a metabolic block, meaning the goal here is to try to sort of push and build work capacity. So again, there's a lot of timed rest work. For example, my main protocol on my squats and deadlifts is to do a set of 6 at 8, where the rest between sets is the RPE of the set minus 5, right? So 6 at an 8 means I get 3 minutes rest. Then what I do is I use the same weight for a set of 4. And if I've done that first set appropriately, 3 minutes rest should be enough recovery time. And I'm doing a set of 4 at a 6 RPE. Now, when I hit a 6 RPE, we get 1 minute rest. So a little bit of a kind of cluster set, maybe. Short rest. Anyways, used 210 for my squats. Felt really good. I've been very, very fortunate and thankful to be able to train with one of my athletes who happens to be a world champion, world record holder. Maybe you can see her in the background. Maybe she's hiding from the camera somewhere. But the phenomenal and legendary Brittany Schlatter, idiot, is here for the week to train with me, and she's fantastic, and it's been an absolute joy having her around. I even tried to film one of her squats on my day one and set up the camera, got a really, really nice angle, forgot to push record, so sorry about it. Anyways, so yeah. Squats went exceptionally well day one. Bench, I'm trying to ease into a little bit. My shoulders are still kind of pissed. They're really achy and stiff and pinchy. Kind of a lot of that is outside of the gym, just weird ranges of motion and stuff. So trying to come into this block and get acclimated to a sort of baseline amount of work took it pretty easy on that day one. Another big highlight this week was getting back into some deadlifts, and the deadlift technique changes that I've made in terms of widening the stance up a little bit, really pushing knees forward more, and trying to emulate more what I see as my sort of successful deadlift pattern, and getting back to that seems to be continuing to be successful. So pulled 240 for 6 and then some 4s, and man, was my back sore after that. That was yesterday, and all of last night I was like just trying to move my back around because it was stiff. And on that note, we get a lot of people sending videos and being concerned because their back is stiff or sore after deadlifting. And in some cases, yes, if that's chronic and you're doing the deadlifts and you're feeling more work in your low back than anywhere else, then maybe there's something there to adjust and to address. But in some cases, like in mine, for example, I just haven't deadlifted heavy in a while. The heaviest I got last block was 220 maybe for some pauses or something. And, now I'm doing 240 for 6, which is, again, 10 to 15% off of what I would normally be doing. And backs is muscles too. They need to be worked. They need to do work. They need to adapt. They need to be challenged. It's part of the system. And if part of the system is a little bit weak, a lot of times you're going to feel a little extra stiff or extra sore there. So I would caution people in being overly reactionary because their back is a little sore after deadlifting. You're probably going to be fine. Again, moving forward, just banging out some more kind of bench work. Did some split squats with the same sort of short rest setup, and working in some overhead press this block, which I'm enjoying quite a bit actually. We've got some seated overhead press. Mike had a more close grip incline, which he basically said I could swap if my shoulders were feeling beat up. In the past, close grip incline has been one of those things that kind of aggravates the shoulder stuff when it's there, and it's there. So we did overhead press, and it felt pretty damn good. Did some more dumbbell press and that kind of stuff. But this week, I think the biggest thing for me is that yesterday and this morning, I was able to get lifts in with friends, with people, with community. And I was able to cavort with my friends in my community through powerlifting and through lifting. And I think that for me is one of the biggest reasons that I fell in love with powerlifting in the first place. One of the things that drew me to it and kept me engaged with it was that when I began powerlifting in Calgary, I finally felt like I had a home, a community, a place that I felt like I belonged and like I was a part of it. And, you know, that extends to now a national group of friends and an international group of friends and community through competition. And I think sometimes a lot of the lifting on my own for extended periods of time, I lose some of that, and it's easier for me to kind of feel pretty blech about sessions and blah, 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 and not really want to do it, or, you know, just kind of go through the motions. But having people around and being able to lift with, you know, my friends and with Danny, who's one of the other Calgary Barbell coaches, and Seth, who is making great YouTube videos right now. Go watch those. Just being able to lift with friends and community has been really, really great this week. So if you have the chance, even if it's a bit of a longer drive, or, you know, you got to train at an inconvenient time, do it at least sometimes. You know, take in that community aspect of things. Let yourself take 4.5 hours for a session because you're jabbering between sets, and I promise it'll be worth it. It's good for the soul to lift with your friends. But we got a question of the day, and the asker of the question every episode is the winner of a gift certificate for the value of one Calgary Barbell t-shirt. So if you want to be entered, I guess, to win, if you want to join the race to win a gift certificate, ask a good question in the comments below and use the word of the day, which I'm hoping you recognized when it already happened earlier in the video. Dylan, what's our question of the day from last time, buddy?
All right. So, question of the day comes from Ty Sal V. So I guess we'll just call him Ty. He says, "Hi, Bryce and Dylan.
Hi.
My question is, how can morphology affect your powerlifting programming? As an exigent short guy, I found that powerlifting is one of the few sports where it might be an advantage, and I would like to know how can I get the most out of it, and also hear your experience about it from a lifting standpoint, but also a coaching standpoint, whether it might be about arm, torso length, etc. Thanks. You, love from France."
Cool. Thanks for the question, Ty. So I think what we're talking about there is kind of, you know, natural limb lengths and advantages or disadvantages of them. I think generally speaking, and the argument's been made before, that weight classes are really more height classes in powerlifting. And part of that is because, you know, the bigger and thicker a lot of the times you can fill out your frame with, you know, predominantly muscle and active metabolic tissues, the better you can lift and the stronger you can be and the more you can take advantage of those leverages. You know, I think it really boils down to trying to maximize your body composition at a given height. Obviously, you know, somebody with shorter arms, probably going to be a better bench presser. You know, somebody with short arms and a big barrel chest, gonna probably have a bit of a gift when it comes to the bench press. Somebody with very long arms and maybe a short torso, probably going to be gifted when it comes to the deadlift. And, you know, somebody with shorter femurs, probably gifted when it comes to the squat. Now, obviously, there are all kinds of outliers within those. I've seen and heard people come up with like these concepts or equations even. I think Greg Knuckles did an equation based on limb length of whether or not you're likely to be better at sumo or conventional. And some of that kind of stuff I think is interesting, but I don't necessarily think it's very telling because there are so many outliers when it comes to a lot of that stuff. I think it's cool to see and to maybe know and have the confidence of being like, yeah, you know, I got these deadlifter arms, I'm gonna do good. But it's also a double-edged sword because sometimes I think you run into the issue of, I've got these deadlifter arms, so I'm gonna have a crappy bench, you know? And it can be self-limiting, and it can be kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Again, if you kind of expect to do poorly in a given discipline, then you can blame your morphology. Yeah, I don't know if I have a real clear, concise answer, just some sort of musings on the topic. And as far as, coaching, I would say the biggest thing for me has been being open to those outliers and being able to kind of think outside of the box in terms of, we've got a lifter, we'll call them lifter A, and lifter A has long deadlift arms. So therefore, lifter A should bench with the maximum width grip on the bench, right? However, maybe lifter A is stronger with a narrower grip despite having longer arms. So maybe the trimming of the range of motion isn't the be-all end-all for this lifter. And I think being open to those exceptions and not, ham-fisting those rules taken from sort of like secondary contexts or secondary characteristics. The primary characteristics that we want to look for when making adjustments to technique is, what position is this person strong in? Where can I put them that they're going to do well and brace well and be successful at these competition lifts? And the secondary or even tertiary characteristics are going to be, how tall are they? How can we think about leverage advantage based on their limb length and etc. So again, I feel like I always come back to this point with discussions like this, but it's so individual. Everything comes down to the individual. And I feel like there's this kind of urge that a lot of people have to be able to like neatly categorize things and say, if this, then this, like if long arms, then good deadlift. When I try as much as I can to throw a lot of that out the window and let the actual experiences and athletic development of a lifter dictate their progression and their programming. So, really just tailoring everything to the individual based on the individual experiences. However, you're not going to have the context to come up with answers based on the individual if you can't make at least some kind of generalization based on past experience and blah, blah, blah. But anyways, I could stand on my soapbox here all day, but I will spare you all that because we have other videos coming out that are going to be me talking about stuff. So if you like to hear me talk about stuff, well, hell, you're in the right place. We got Form Check Fridays coming out again. We got our Form Check live streams. I'm just gonna say this again because I've been really impressed with Seth's YouTube content, but go over to Seth's YouTube channel. He's put out just a couple of bangers lately. Go watch him. He's a smart guy. He says good stuff, and his abilities in filming, creating, and publishing these videos is skyrocketing right now. So go give him a whole bunch of support. Subscribe to his stuff, like his videos, go into the comments and tell him he's handsome and beautiful, and we'll see everybody in the next training vlog or form check or whatever y'all are seeing on here. We appreciate you all. Bye-bye.